Hello, Midnight TCG members. This is Midnight Fox coming to you with this week's Competitive Edge podcast. This week we have myself, we have Nomad, we
Hello.
have Eddie Phoenix,
Yeah.
and we have in the background Jinzaki recording for us this week. Since he's not fully aware of our type this week, we're going to be going over winged beasts. So, for all you winged beast fans, this podcast is for you. Harpy Lady Love. So, excuse me. Kind of to start out with winged beast, wanted to go over a little bit of history. We've kind of covered it in the last few podcasts about pretty much going with Egyptian mythology and all is where Konami went with the original cards. And if you think back, pretty much anything they've went with has went with some kind of mythology. Winged beasts, of course, going back to Greek and Roman mythology and thinking of Pegasus. But for quite a while, there was only one real somewhat competitive deck, which was Harpy Ladies, until Black Wings. But it was a forgotten archetype. But definitely with the new ban list, we've seen an expansion of it. But Harpies were released and really took the archetype to a new level once they got to the set after they introduced My Valentine into the anime series. So, I mean, that's kind of the history. She used a bunch of different Harpy ladies. She had a bunch of cards that some are still unreleased. I would love to see them. So, Konami, if you're listening, if you happen to have some of those cards you gave My Valentine in the anime series, we'd love to get them for support when you release that Wind Structure deck. We're hoping it gives us some Harpy support. But kind of the history along the way, like I said, mainly dealing around the Harpy archetype. Other than that, I mean, mentionable was Ryza, but Winged Beasts really got huge with the introduction of Black Wings. That's where they really got huge and started to shine in the limelight again and get more support. So, Eddie, you got anything to add to the history that I didn't cover yet?
Nothing that I can honestly think of. But when it comes with the whole Harpy support, you also, even though it's a dragon, one of her mainstay cards for her Harpy deck was her Harpy's pet dragon.
And if anybody is listening out there, I will say it's not on my list, but if you happen to have an FMR, the original Harpy's Pet Dragon, the Fox would love to add that to his collection. So check out my trade binder if you happen to have that particular Harpy's Pet Dragon.
Interesting.
Also, Sonic Duck.
Sonic Duck. Under the cat. Quack, quack.
Howard the Duck. You know Howard the Duck?
Yeah. Yeah, that cross-species scene, that was, could have been kind of freaky if they'd actually went somewhere with that.
Well, the freaky part, too, is I remember that actress from Caroline in the City, and every time I watch that movie now, I just think, okay, I don't know,
What about you, Nomad? You got any more to add to the history of winged beasts?
To me, it's always been fan service. You guys mentioned Harpies, and then we had Black Wings, but other than those, I guess recent history, we've seen the rise of stuff like Dragunities, but those aren't really winged beasts in the mechanical sense, so...
But what they did with that, and they kind of went over it when they released Dragunities, was when they started talking about releasing the archetype, it was a mixture of dragons and winged beasts. And they said they were going back to Roman mythology and showing the warriors the combination of dragons and winged beasts. So
It
they
counts.
even paid tribute. They were going back to that mythology. So you can kind of look and see that Konami looks at a lot of history. Of course, everything that they introduce into the game is not particularly historically correct, but they give some kind of reference to some kind of historical mythical figures. So,
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's neat because, like, if you look at how Yu-Gi-Oh started, even like in the anime or in the manga, it was, something that took place in our present time and that drew off Egyptian mythology. So, I mean, if you're gonna explore all the Egyptian stuff, then why wouldn't you expand into Greek and to Norse and to all that stuff? Like even like we have Loki, right?
yes, it amazed me that it took them so long to hit into Norse mythology when they actually did release Odin, Loki, and Thor.
Thor. I
And
still want
Thing is,
Thor.
what pisses me off really about it is with Thor being the god of thunder, why is he not a thunder type?
Well, for the same reason that you have Breaker the Magical Warrior.
he says he's a warrior, but he's actually a spellcaster.
Exactly. And you have Goblin Zombie.
Why?
We have Goblin Zombie. He's not really a goblin.
Well, we don't have goblins in Yu-Gi-Oh anyways, but still, yeah.
We have a zombie. Well, it just reminds me because the guy at my locals saw my Goblin Zombie and he's like, that doesn't look like a zombie or a goblin. And then we all kind of laughed at him. It was funny.
So, I mean, yeah, I think that their release was really of the Norse gods was pretty funny in its timing, right around the release of the Thor movie. So I think maybe they thought, oh well, we'll release it right around the release of that movie, and it's going to make the set really big. We're going to make a whole archetype around it. And in some ways, it's built right. That deck can be decently broken, but it was more overhyped than anything as far as being able to run the Norse gods.
Yeah.
So, now that we went over a little bit of history, we'll list our favorites. I'll start on this. Definitely one of my top favorite. Cyber Harpy Lady. Love Cyber Harpy Lady. Have loved using her since the beginning of the game. And Ryza, the ability to bounce back to the top of the deck with Ryza. Definitely Ryza is one of my favorites. I would go in to say Harpy Queen, Winged Sage Falcon, all those, but really, I'm going to say my last big favorite that I love to play is Blackwing Armor Master, and I know he doesn't fit into every deck, but Blackwing Armor Master, the ability to be able to not be destroyed by battle and take no battle damage. If you can find a way to get him out and protect him, he's a very broken card. And with the Vayu Turbo engine, it shuts down all that effect. But still, 2500 7-star synchro. Armor Master's definitely in my top 3. But, Cyber Harpy Lady, nothing special other than playing with Harpy's Hunting Grounds, but the artwork is fantastic, and I love the fact that she's an 1800 beater. The closest thing to beating with Cyber Harpy Lady is Harpy's brother.
But he's not really a harpy, though.
With that, we'll pass it on to Eddie.
Okay, so I'm going to be that guy in this entire podcast because
That guy.
yeah, it's one of those things where I have a huge thing with Blackwings.
I think we all do
So-
at some point.
hmm But BWOW and BWAM, Armed Wing, Armor Master, they're at least right up there with each other. It's one of those things where with Blackwing Armed Wing, the reason I like it so well is because it's already a piercer. So you've got that. So a lot of times you're gonna have your opponent keeping their monsters in attack position because, hey, if you switch them to defense position, oh, looky there, I gained 500 more attack points and I still pierce. So you got your yin and your yang there for that one. Also gonna have to go with Dark Simorgh. It's one of those cards to where if you run it in the proper deck, you can shut your opponent down pretty easily. And going to have to go possibly as just another card. Blackwing Sirocco the Dawn. Its pump ability for its Blackwing brethren and with the Blackwing Swarm ability is just ow.
I've actually filled a field full of Blackwings and pierced with a Blackwing Armed Wing using Sirocco's effect. It was devastating. And it was on a Spirit Reaper, no less.
Poor Spirit Reaper. Does so much so well. But sometimes it's just not his night.
Yeah, I think I pierced for about 6,500 damage. So I had out Armor Master, Armed Wing, Elfin,
Elfin. You don't see Elfin very much.
and Sirocco.
Oh my god.
Elfin the Raven.
Yes.
You guys like Elfin, don't you?
Yeah.
It's pretty good. But it doesn't get a lot of love. So
It's hard to tribute someone. It's hard to tribute someone for him though, because it's.
Yeah.
I play him in my Vayu Turbo just because with the Dark Grepper's Foolish Burial, I can dump him and send a Vayu, and I got an Armor Master. So yeah, I still play him.
I thought about it. I just couldn't really chalk it up to being consistent enough for me. Like I like the effect because, like initially, it's gonna get over at least one monster, so it's not that bad. And I did when we had Whirlwind at 3, but I don't know. I'm a fan of the artwork and pretty much everything about it, but at this point, it just doesn't cut it for my deck anymore. I'm sorry, Elfin, but you can stay in my binder for now.
You should really try the Vayu Turbo build.
Well, I
I'm
use
listening.
Vayu, but I have like a couple Vayus, but I don't really have a whole lot of emphasis on them.
you have to send me the list after the show tonight because it's one of those things where I'm trying the Chaos Wings out as well. So
I'll send you a screenshot of my Blackwing deck, the one that I'm playing right now that sides out for the Jinzo Lockdown anti-meta Chaos.
you've
It's
seen
crazy.
It's crazy, but it works because it catches my opponent off guard. Round 1, I get them. Round 2, they side in for Blackwings. So I see them do that. Round 3, they're completely caught off guard because now there's only one Blackwing left in my deck and everything else has been completely changed out. So they side in a whole bunch of cards to side against my Blackwings, and all of a sudden it's not a Blackwing deck. Now it's a Jinzo Lockdown deck that runs Chaos. It's funky. I'll have to show it to you guys after the podcast, but it's so far, as long as I make it through this round with another win, it's 4-1. It's only lost once. And that was
wow.
because of a misplay I made.
Oh.
Because I got too quick on it. I was thinking I got the win. I was looking at the guy's hand. No way he's got something sitting in his hand. And I played out a card too quickly and lost the game because of my misplay. Otherwise, I think right now I would be sitting at 5-0. It's a funky build, but it works. So what about you, Nomad? What's your favorite Winged Beast?
I mean, I'm gonna have to go with some of the obvious characters as well. Like you mentioned, there's Cyber Harpy. I've loved that one pretty much ever since it came out. That's why I was really dead set on having that as one of our site banners. And then again, I like pretty much all the Blackwings. A huge fan of Blizzard. Canada Goose, it's Blizzard. I also like Mistfally Falcon quite a bit, and that was one of the few cards that I was actually awaiting to get for quite a while, just because I liked how it had a higher attack than most. It's a 2-ground, and it had a neat effect of where you return a card you control in order to declare your attack, which, yeah, it can just be a random card that you set and play again, or it can be something like a Fiendish Chain or a Call to Haunted, or it's very versatile. And it's also... Sorry, go on.
You just had to mention the Mist Valley and Dragoonities. Now you're making me think of a deck I used to run again, but I'll get into that further later on.
Well, yeah, I'll poke it if we forget. But yeah, and another one too I like quite a lot is Prime Material Falcon. Playability wise, yes, it's not great. But I love the artwork on that card, and it was a secret rare that I pretty much had to get the moment it came out. So if we're going like objectively or subjectively or whatever, yeah, I'm going with Prime Material Falcon. I love that card. I had it for quite a while, and I think I only had to trade like a Dandelion and like maybe a Mask of... What?
Yeah, he's not worth a whole lot, but there are so many overlooked cards in Yu-Gi-Oh!
Like Dark Samorg, as Eddie brought up. I mean, like I'll be the first to admit that I hyped the crap out of the card when it was first announced, and I thought it would make a pretty big splash in our meta, but I guess it just came down to a useful effect and easy summoning condition, but in a deck that maybe wasn't that great overall, so you had to sacrifice way too much for it.
People have forgotten about Harpies. And really, a Harpy Blackwing hybrid could really abuse Dark Samorg.
So the problem I have over there is that, aside from like Icarus attack and Dark Samorg, you really don't have that much of your synergy. Like, you have your Blackwing engines, and then you have your Harpy engines, and I find that I don't have enough space to go and devote... The heck is that?
My phone, son of a
bandit?
It's one of those things where someone called it. I don't know who the hell it is, and it's just like,
you should like answer the phone and put them on speakerphone and get them on the podcast. Have like a live showing. Only it's not live or a showing, but you should do it. Someone phones you.
Anyway, keep going. I do have one thing to insert whenever everybody's done.
Insert at will, my good man. Insert at will.
Well, if we're going to go on favorites, the thing I did like that I was going to mention, but I wanted you to finish up first, and this is where Dragoonities and Harpies kind of work together. It was only actually 2 cards. I'm trying to think of it. Dragoonity Dukes and Dragoonity Phalanx. But the ability to special summon a Harpy with...
Oh, you mean Elegant Egotist? Or...
The big thing was using Harpy's Hunting Ground to control the spell and trap zone. And I did my best to make sure I protected that. And it was a somewhat effective in the
The heck
fact
is
that
that?
it kept control of the spell and trap zone. And between Call of the Haunted, Monster Reborn, Hysteric Party, and the Dragoonity monster that allowed me to special summon uh, my harpies back to the field, I could keep blowing up spell and traps left and right with it. So the only thing the opponent had to stop me with was their monster zone. It worked for a while. It's kind of out of date, but it's definitely one of my favorite fun decks. Was my Dragoonity Harpy hybrid.
I would like to see it sometime. Truthfully, I still have a lot to learn about playing Dragoonities. Like I've played against them quite a bit, but I've never actually ran the deck myself. So
Well, I've been contemplating throwing, since there's a lot of emphasis going back to the spell and trap zone, and especially with Malefic Gear Town becoming a competitive deck, I've thought about throwing Dragon Ravine and Harpy's Hunting Ground together in a deck to be able to knock out stuff like that. Yes, I'm going to give them a beater, but I'm going to have something to keep control over the field with either one. So I've been kind of exploring both of them, trying to find what is going to be synergetic with each other.
well, you know
And
what you
so,
could do is you could run a Gear Town hybrid, where you run like a lot of like your Harpy Queens and then your Terraformings, and you have your 3 field card, but you also have your Gear Town. Because if you have that much speed, ideally you're going to be doubling up, right? So if you play the Gear Town and you set your other one, you destroy your Gear Town, you summon your Diloton Dragon, and then you also play your other field card, and then you've made a use of your double field that way, opposed to just having to go on a pick and choose which
see,
one you want to play.
that's the problem. That's the reason everybody went with Necro Valley versus other field cards.
Because it was useful on its own.
Because, yeah, chaos is so rampant, so they shut down the graveyard.
Well, it wasn't just chaos. It was like pretty much every meta deck around
Removes, yeah.
was hit by it, and even just like moving cards out of your graveyard. I don't remember exactly what the meta was at that time, but I remember it being a pretty solid side deck choice. And some decks that ran like 3 spy and like
3 commandants.
well, no, but I mean like as like a tech was Ryo's like your anti-mana stuff, where you have like 3 spies and then that Descendant, yeah. 3 spies and 1 of him, and then you have your Necro Valleys.
See, the ones I've seen ran a lot of commandants for the searchability for Necro Valley, but they still ran the Descendants to blow it up. And another one that kind of ran along with that was Recruiter, to be able to search your deck for great Gravekeepers. So,
But if you're going that dedicated, you might as well build a full Gravekeeper deck. If you're going that full, though.
Oh, Gravekeepers, I love them. There's, my initial interest in Harpies came from a friend when I first got into it, the guy who actually got me into playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Because my brother and my friends, when I was like 19, tried to get me into the game. I'm like, that's a stupid children's game. I ain't freaking playing. I ain't touching this game. Leave me alone. It rolls around to 2004, and my buddy gets me to sit down and play it, and I'm like drawn in. And his daughter won a competitive all-female deck. So that was right around the release of Cyber Harpy Lady, and ever since then, I've tried to find ways to abuse her. She's not really abusable, as in she doesn't have the best effect in the world, but with Harpy's Hunting Ground, she's fun.
Well, I like her effect. I like how her effect applies in your deck.
I like
Don't
her.
you like that too? How you can like search her with Elegant Egotist? Don't you like that?
That's kind of like, that's why I liked when they released Harpy Queen, because one of the limitations of it is you could only have the three Harpy ladies, you know. You couldn't run 3 Harpy Lady 1, 3 Harpy Lady 2, 3 Harpy Lady 3, 3 Cyber Harpies. You had that limitation, whereas Harpy's Queen was treated as Harpy Lady only while she was on the field. So it gave you the opportunity to run 6.
And the graveyard, too, and that kind of matters
Yeah.
for stuff like a Sarek party. And the fact that you'll be discarding her for her own effect some of the time if you want to search for hunting ground.
And my favorite thing to do is to send her, have a Call of the Haunted set, and then special summon her at the beginning of my opponent's turn and blow up something in their spell and trap zone.
I know, because like you make that play and you gain back all the disadvantage you would have given yourself by dropping your monster. It's like,
and then you got a 2100 beater out there.
And you still have your normal summon too, in
That's
case you
right.
get
Eddie, you have something to contribute too.
Yes, I did. And it's one of those things to where I want to see a new archetype fusion. We've been talking about the Draconides and the Blackwings and, the Harpies. There's a new archetype out there that we haven't even really touched or discussed yet.
I mean, Gustos?
Legustos.
Oh man, I faced the most annoying Gusto deck. What was that? Was it oh gosh, what's the 6-star? Zephyr the Breeze or something like the one that allows them to make you take the battle damage. It took me back to my days of running Amazonas and reversing the damage at my opponent. But the guy was running Gustos, and he got out that Synchro monster and kept attacking me with 200 little beaters that searched. So he's attacking into my Blackwing Armor Master, and I'm taking 2,300 damage every time he does.
Burn, burn, burn. Oh, hey, you're dead.
What the?
Exactly. That's the best part about that little booger.
That is the kind of creativity I'd like to see, though, is people doing things like that, thinking outside the box. Like, those are my favorite decks to face because you can sit there and play a game against windups. You can play against Inzectors. You can play against Rabbit decks. You can play against all the top tier decks, but you know what you're going to run into. So it really gets boring. It's those people who step up, they find a way to run something effectively that just completely catches you off guard. I don't mind losing because I'm just looking at this person like, wow, that was an awesome idea.
It's one of those like, congratulations, you did something that confused the hell out of me.
And then, of course, you go home and you learn how it works because you don't want it to happen again. And then you're one step closer to being the best in the world at everything you do.
Oh, plug for Jericho.
Or CM Punk. You decide.
By the way, I found out what that phone call was a little bit ago. It was my college campus calling and reporting about an assault and robbery.
Someone lose their Yu-Gi-Oh cards?
I don't know, but
Eddie has an alibi. He's been podcasting.
It's one of those things to
Wasn't
where I appreciate the notification and everything, but
Well, I could think it was Eddie. He kind of looks like a thug in his picture. You know, he's got his knuckles cracking.
problem you have there is that the two suspects were two black males.
Well, you could pass for a blackmail.
Only if I put myself really, really dark or
You're
wear
probably more
all
black
black.
there, to be honest, at this point.
Nomad, we're gonna take a trip to Ohio, and we're going to take some paint. We're gonna paint him.
Yeah, We're gonna paint Eddie black.
And then we're going to take him into the campus police and tell him it was him, but he was podcasting with us the entire time.
I don't even want to begin to imagine all the problems that can and will come from that.
Smack you guys, swear to God.
I think we should just get together and watch Dolomite and be done with it. You know Dolomite?
Yeah.
Everyone should watch Dolomite at least once. That movie's hilarious in ways that it was not supposed to be. That's the best part.
Okay, so next.
On to Staples. Really?
Well, there's one.
As far as Staples, yeah, really the only one is
Icarus Attack.
Well, if you're looking at playing that in general, but as Blackwings themselves, Ryza's a good staple for his bounceability. I mean, at one time, he was the first Monarch to be limited because of the recycle engine, and putting cards back to the top of your opponent's deck with Volcanics made him broken. So Ryza definite, but he's still a good staple. You can still get use out of him. But a lot of people like to go the Caius route. But me, I like to pay tribute to the past. And if I go back to running a Dark Simorgh deck, I'll probably definitely run a couple Caius and a couple of Ryza. Just because Ryza's effect is still good. To be able to know what your opponent's going to draw and have an answer for it is good. Unless it was a face down you bounced.
Even then, though, even if you bounce a face-down card, you're still one turn ahead of your opponent, and you have a monster you didn't have before.
Exactly.
So really, even if you're bouncing a face-down card, it wasn't useful on their turn. It's not going to be useful on your turn. Chances are it won't be useful on the following turn. So really, that's 3 turns of no action that you're seeing with it.
Another good staple, and this mainly goes with Blackwings, but you could really splash it into any deck. Definitely Gale the Whirlwind. The ability to half an attack is beautiful. If you're running into a big beastly monster, that's your way to knock it out. They got a Scrap Dragon out on you, 2,800 attack. Okay, I'm going to summon Gale. You can't bottom listen. Thanks. I'm going to half attack. 14.
And then Gale still can't attack over it.
He still can't attack over it, but you have
I know, I'm just
out there with it. Of course, you know, like me, Bora, Gale, sure. I like the original Blackwings. I don't go to Zephyros. I don't like to go to everything everybody went, you know, everybody hyped up Zephyros and Jetstream and
Jetstream sucks though. I know, like
the original.
I don't understand this. Like, how can like I understand Zephyros because it's an extra Blackwing monster. It has pretty good attack. You can also like revive it once per game, but I don't understand, like, unless you're like a really, really strong New Order fan, I don't understand all this Jetstream love that we had for like a week.
No, Jetstream completely and utterly sucks. There's no need for you to use it. A lot of the other, like the higher starred Blackwings that aren't, you know, synchros, that are effect monsters and stuff, they suck too.
Isn't one of them a tuner? And like it makes no sense because you have like no way to actually play it unless you run like.
I think it's fucking stupid.
Zephyr the Breeze, I think.
Breeze. No, Breeze is.
Breeze is pretty
the
cool.
Regular effect monster.
And Breeze is like the one that, when you add her to your hand, you can special summon her, and it's a level 3 tuner with, I believe, 1100 attack.
Someone was asking me, and I have it in my binder, but I can't remember the name of it. Yeah, they did have a level 5 and a level 6 tuner. Yeah.
I just like using value. I like Blizzard. I like my Gale. I like my standard setup, but I like to have, you know...
I was excited to see Colluded too.
I know, and I love that because, like, Blackwings had lost to Bionic, and that was a pretty big hit. So having your Kalut back is not only going to help your Blackwing presence, but it also makes Blizzard and Catastor more of an option. So it's a bit of a consolation.
Yeah, I'm bringing my Black Wings back into play. If I get to go to this regionals tournament that's in Columbus here in November, I'm really, really torn between my Black Wings and the Ancient Gear deck that I'm building right now.
Oh, those are like my two favorite decks, or two of them.
I know, and it's really hard because I'm also thinking, because there's a third deck that I really want to run too. That's the Heroes. So it's like I've got a triangle of decks that I really want to run, and I don't know which I'm going to run. So
A triage of decks is what you're saying?
yeah, it's a triage of decks. I don't know which one I want to run because, like, for my Black Wings, I'm running them in a macro style at start, and then taking it to where I can maybe divert them into either Chaos or possibly running the Vayu Sworn once I look at Fox's build.
You know what I would do, Eddie? What I would do with your build? The problem is you got too much going on in that build. Is go with like a Vayu Turbo build and side in the macro. Have it in your side so your opponent never sees it coming. That way you're not depending on macro. You're not depending on it unless you side into it. Then you know exactly where you're going to go. Because the problem with mixing the decks from the beginning is you get to thinking, I need this combination, I need this combination. Whereas if you go with the original build like I do with my Vayu Turbo build that runs my Dark Greffers to dump,
I
is
can't get my hands on Dark Greffers and because they're like way too much, and
Armageddon Knight is a good substitute. It's a little lower attack, and you can't continuously use it, but it still gives you a free dump.
if I can find it for a good price, sure. But for right
Armageddon
now,
Knight? Because like I can probably even just like send you some Armageddon Knights, honestly. If I can find my rares, I'll just send them to you.
baller,
Yeah.
thank you, Nomad.
Because like at one point I had 4 of them. Even if I only have 1 or 2, they're yours. That's
But
It's something
definitely,
new that I would love to try out because it's one of those things to where with the macro build, I typically enjoy it because it's one of those kinds of builds that right from the start you don't expect coming right out the gate. It's like, oh, it's a Blackwing deck. No, it's not. It's a macro Blackwing deck. Haha, I'm playing off my weakness, my graveyard.
what I would do with that deck though, I would either go with like a macro Monarch to start and side into Black Wings, or I'd start with Black Wings and side into macro Monarch.
I'm
was-
still
Completely catch your opponent off guard, but you have to build it to where you can move those Black Wings or what have you out perfectly. That's the way mine's built. Is the monsters side out perfectly. I side out at everything but Gel. That's the only Black Wing I leave in the deck. Black Whirlwind comes out, and I replace it with the other cards I need. So it goes from a Blackwing deck into a completely different deck that still abuses Dark Grepher because it runs 3 Jinzos and 3 Call of the Hornets.
I didn't know that was what you ran. I thought you were running something along the lines. You were still keeping the mainstay Blackwings in there because that's what I do with the Chaos style. Is I keep the mainstay Blackwings in there for Chaos fodder and Chaos food, and then throw in.
I do run them. I run 2 Shura, 2 Bora, 2 Blizzard, Gale, 2 Vayu, 2 Kalute, and then 3 Dark Grepher and a Plague Spreader.
Plague Spreader. I haven't run Plague Spreader in Black Wings for quite a while, but I liked it at one point.
And then I run 2 Sirocco and an Elfin. I run things to where I always have a hand that I can abuse Dark Grepher, get to Dark Grepher and abuse him, and get that Vayu summon. And then when my opponent figures out, well, he's playing a Vayu Turbo build, once we get into that second game, and if they get me, I don't change anything second game, but if they get me in the second game because they sided in for it, then I'll go in there and I'll take out that whole deck except for Gel because I like his effect of being able to half, and he's still a 3-star tuner. And I'll put an entirely different deck in that runs on nothing but special summons. Like it runs Photon Thrashers, Cyber Dragons, Jinzos, extra Call of the Haunted, so that I can abuse Jinzo I've seen people going back to using Trap Holes because Bottomless is becoming less and less useful with people switching to Xyz, so people are going back to Trap Hole. So kudos to them. They're looking at, oh, well, my bottom list is not as good because people are swarming with lower monsters for Xyz summons. But still, I targeted around special summons then. So they never see that coming.
I'm also hearing that Needle Wall is being ran now.
Yes, I was hearing about that, and I used to actually run that in a main deck around when Blackwings and Samurai were out there. But I found myself almost always like I'd main deck it, and almost every game too, it would get sided out. So I don't know.
Do you guys remember Fairy Box?
Oh yeah, Fairy Box.
Fairy Box.
Love that. I hate it running against it, but it's definitely a funny card to run in your deck.
I might actually run it again in a semi-serious build because it's like, yeah, it's a coin flip idea, and I might not really get a whole lot of advantage out of it, but just like the mental turmoil that it can cause for a couple turns.
And see, that's another thing too that I really liked about it with the macro build is that a lot of the decks that you see in today's meta are the decks that run those cards where it's like we really got to rely on our graveyard. If you can throw out a deck that can just be like, okay, well, I can utilize the graveyard if I need to and still be able to also play off the macro, you really screw with people's heads.
And see,
that's part of why Blackwings are
with the macro Dark World mixture, but it come around to it doesn't balance. You need to go with one or the other, and you can side in and do something completely different in your side deck. It's better because in the mind of a duelist, you get to thinking of, I need this combo. So you've got plays in your hand that you're not using because you're looking for that combo to hit.
The thing is the deck doesn't really dead draw too often. The main time it dead draws really is when it pulls too many Doomsday Horrors. That's about it. Because I've got 2 Doomsday Horrors in the deck, and if I draw both of those and I don't draw anything to feed off of it, that's where it really gets bogged down. But other than that, it can still run those top-tier Blackwings and run that formation. And then, if it pulls into the macro style early, it's like, okay, well, I can slow my opponent down early game, and then if they blow up the macro, I at least have a backup plan with the main deck of Blackwings to go, ha!
I'm going to make a suggestion to you, and this is completely off base of Harpies. If you really want to mess with someone's head, and you want to do macro, run macro, Soul Absorption, your defissures, Ectoplasmer, Malice Doll, Survivors, and DD Scout Planes. Burn, gain. Burn, gain. Burn, gain. So if they take out your macro, you still got your Malice Doll of Demises to drop, and they lose 800 life points. And he gets to come back next turn because he was destroyed by a spell effect. And then if your macro's active, then you can get rid of your DD Scout Planes or your DD Survivors, burn them for 900 or 400. They come back, and if you got Soul Absorption out, you gain 500 every time something's removed. Your opponent dark holes, and you've got a field full of Survivors and
Scout. Oh, would you look at it? They all come back.
Yeah, you gain 2,500 life points, and they all come back. What a headache. I went in a game from the guy being at 8,000 and me at 100. When I finally got into that engine, I ended the game at 9,600 to 0.
So how was your Necroface? How was your Necroface integration?
I never even used Necroface in that deck. I have the deck built. I'll show it to you guys after the podcast. It's fun. It's not meant to be a serious deck. It's meant to be a trollolololo deck on DN.
Speaking of trollolololo, come on, where is it? I've got that on my phone. I'm like, where is it? Come on. No, forget it. Anyway, I think we need to start wrapping this up.
Oh, we got a couple more to go through.
Well,
Right.
or you could always just use that as a segue into our next topic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go to our next one. Broken. I mean, about the most broken cards I can think of. There's other ones, but the most broken card in the Winged Beast archetype is definitely Ryza. Dark Simorgh and Ryza are the best two that come to mind because of their abilities. Are you going to see them? Are you going to see Dark Simorgh in every deck? No, because she requires a dark and a wind. But Ryza is definitely a broken card, if played right, that can be splashed into any deck. And with limitations gone, if somebody found the right build, he is a highly abusable monster. And if you're running like a Harpy type deck, definitely the ability to keep control of the spell and trap zone and keep control of the monster zone by using Ryza to bounce, it's a beautiful thing if you can pull it off. So, I mean, that's my take on Broken. What about you, Eddie?
I'm going to have to go with the Vayu being able to synchro summon from the graveyard. It's one of my. It's something that I normally try to use, but sometimes it doesn't work for me because I either get beaten early, like really really early game, or I'm able to swarm and just wipe my opponent.
Who throws?
Right.
Do you throw Silverwind into yours?
I don't actually.
I throw one just in case my Armor Master ends up hitting the graveyard, because although you're not going to get his effect, he's still a 2800 beater, and you can still use your Armor Master for something, and you can use a Vayu.
What I'm saddened by is I still need an extra pair of Armor Master and
Arm Wing?
Armed Wing.
We need a level 5.
There is one coming out, but it's going to suck because I think that, like, it can't be special summoned except by Synchro Summon. Which means you can't use Vayu in the grave with it, and that you have to use Vayu on the field, at which point you're better off playing Catastrophe most of the time anyway. Because if you care about the Icarus attack play, then you're just not going to synchro anything, and you'll just keep your Shura and your Vayu on the field.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I wrote like a one-page hate about that card when it first got spoofed on the forum. So if anybody really cares to hear my hate thoughts, it's probably out there.
We need a Blackwing or a Harpy Xyz monster. So, Konami, if you're listening, we're throwing another idea to you. Give us a Harpy or a Blackwing Xyz monster.
Or a Blackwing Harpy.
Yeah, there we go.
A Black Harpy.
It's considered a dark or a win. Dark Simorgh decks come back for the win.
And they should make it... And this one should be naturally a win monster. And then, like...
It could be treated as dark.
Yeah.
I kind of wish I could go to the YCS that's happening in Indianapolis this weekend.
And I'm so sad because I'm like an hour away. But nobody bought the Fox's Exodia set, so I can't go.
You can't go? Aw, that's sad.
Oh. So...
That makes me sad.
That makes me sad because it's an hour away. It sucks. So,
and plus, Dan Green's going to be there. Wayne Grayson's going to be there.
Jarrell's going to be there.
Yeah.
Give him a shout out. He did pass on our breast cancer awareness stuff. Would have been nice to meet him, talk to him a little more about the forums, and try to get him involved in some of the stuff we got going on. But we'll get into that further down the podcast.
Well, you'll peer pressure him eventually.
What about you, Nomad? Broken.
Honestly, I think the only correct answer to this is Icarus attack, because everything else is good, but it's not really something that tells you to run the deck. Icarus attack is literally the card that says, yes, I want to run a Winged Beast because I want to play 3 Icarus. I'm not saying that like Vayu or Gale or the other cards are crappy cards because they're obviously like extremely good. But when I look at a broken or the leading card toward Winged Beasts, I see Icarus. I mean, you're destroying any 2 cards on the field. It's a spell speed number 2 card. Your cost is attributing any Winged Beast monster. You don't have any timing requirement other than actually playing it when you can pay your cost. And most of the time, you're getting at least a +1 out of it, and you're fueling a lot of aggression too. So Icarus Attack is my pick for the broken Winged Beast card.
And then the last one, best deck, current or past. I definitely have to say, before all of the support hit for Black Wings, right after Crimson Crisis was released, and we first got just Armor Master, Sirocco, Shura, Bora, Gale, I ran a Blackwing Harpy hybrid. And this was Glad Beast time. So the ability to abuse Harpy's hunting grounds and control the spell and trap zone, and being able to mass special summon, and then go into Dark Strike Fighter to end a game was absolutely amazing. And then it sided into, believe it or not, a Sacred Phoenix side deck. So when they started hating on my back row, I had Sacred Phoenix in there, and it ran the Spirit of Nephthys in that deck too. But probably my best one, it was usually quick games because the Swarm of it, even just with the release of Shura, Bora, Gale, Sirocco, and Blackwing Armor Master, just those 5 cards alone were easily swarmed because Bora and Gale special summon if you have a Blackwing, and Shura, if you destroy a monster, you get to special summon. And then, of course, Sirocco, the ability to pump up, or just his normal summon if your opponent has a monster. And then you still have pop into a Gale because he was still at 3. And then you could just go into a Stardust Dragon to make sure that you were safe to attack. And D-Prison wasn't as big because it was still a high rarity card. So that was probably my best deck, other than right now. Like I said, my Bayou Turbo sides into a Jinzo Lockdown Chaos. A lot of words there. I call it Meta Wings. Right now, currently, that's one of my better decks in the current meta. What about you, Eddie?
It's been my Macro Wings, to be honest. Like, the people that I get to play with around here, it just wipes with them. So,
it wipes chunk with them, is what you're saying? It wipes chunk?
It just one of those things where it's like, oh, well, I'm kind of screwed. It just gets out really quick, and it runs. And that's pretty much it. Nomad, you're up.
Okay, so I guess we have our Macro Wings. We have Meta Wings. So I want to talk about Enemy Wings. Enemy Wings, yes. Enemy Controller is still one of my favorite cards. I love it in Black Wings. It's good pretty much every time that you draw it. Even if you're not making those quirky Blizzard plays, it's just an easier way to fuel the anti-meta approach. You can actually keep your monsters on the field. You get your Shuras to actually do something. And Armor Masters or actually Armed Wing can occasionally make a lot of damage that way too, which is kind of nice. Other than that, I've been looking at a lot of different decks recently because of our deck of the month being Wind Attribute. Yeah, and the idea here is that every deck, every monster in your deck, be it your main deck or your side deck, has to be a Wind monster, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm looking at stuff, and like initially I thought, Dragoonies are probably the best deck in this whole format, I'm thinking. But other than that, I'm looking at Harpies. I'm also looking at possibly a Gladiator Beast engine, because we have like what 4 good Gladiator Beast monsters that are all wins. So that's kind of throwing me in a direction. I'm also contemplating something with Reborn Tengu, which I can't believe we haven't mentioned yet all day. And possibly even Ryza in there. And I have a couple of other ideas too, and I'm leaning toward either the Harpy deck, but I don't know. I think as far as stuff that I've actually ran, I think my favorites has just been Blackwings. Pretty standard, but I have my enemy controllers. I still like Mirror Force in it. I also liked Trapstun for a while in that deck. Actually, over MSTs when field cards weren't popular. And even going back to Harpies, I ran a pretty fun deck, which was a Gear Town and Harpy hybrid. And the idea there was that I had a lot of beat sticks, a lot of fast 1-for-1s, a lot of searching for my fields. So as we talked about earlier in the recording, it was just a matter of, okay, well, I can get my Gear Town out and I can get rid of it and make use of it while having a hunting ground on the field after. Other than that stuff, I'm just going to pass the buck here because that's pretty much all I got, guys.
Before we wrap it up with our promos, for those who didn't get in this week, Caillou won by default this week. He was the only person who entered in the Flash tournament.
Really?
So I was a sad fox because actually this week's contest was going to be all machines, no spells, only traps. Jinzo and Decree were going to be banned. So, like I said, the fox always has a twist. So you guys know winged beasts are coming on the next one, but you don't know what twist I'm going to throw in there. I'm just going to say that people are going to have to do a lot of thinking when it comes to this coming week's Flash tournament. So get in there and play. And just kind of to wrap things up, between Midnight TCG and E-Roll J has provided some price support. We're talking to other people, trying to get some more items for raffle. We are running a few different contest donations. There is a link at the bottom of our site now on the forum that takes you directly to the Relay for Life to make a donation to Team Midnight TCG, helping fund to fight against cancer. We're trying to push out on Twitter, so if you listen to this, Duel Against Cancer. Hashtag Duel Against Cancer. Get it out there. Let's make it trend. But some of the contests we have going on, we have a raffle going on. Right now, all we have is we're going to have a Calcujotter and an Inzektor Hornet mat that will be raffled off. If we can get more things donated to us, we're going to try to add more to that pool. It's $10 and every $10 you donate, you're going to get an entry. And on November 1st, Jinzaki is going to take live video over Skype of us doing the drawing. Hopefully we get a few more donations. I'm trying to hit up some people like John Cena. Try to get
Champ is here.
One of his signed pink and black T-shirts to help raise money. But definitely go down there, visit that. We got that going on, the raffle. That's $10 entry. Anybody who donates, I've made a special tag. It's going to stay on the board. You'll get a bolded pink name if you make a donation, and you'll get a Midnight TCG donor tag. So definitely take a look within there. If you look down a little further, we have our Duel Against Cancer, which is a tournament. It's going to be held November 1st. We'll be taking donations all the way from now until October 31st. It's a $5 entry. First place is going to get an Inzektor Centipede mat. Second place is going to get a CalcuJotter. $5. Midnight TCG is making no money off of this. This is all directly going to the Relay for Life. So if you think you're clicking that and you're donating to our board, you're not. You're going directly to the American Cancer Society and you're donating directly to them. The only thing is I receive an email says you did make your donation, so it will be checked for validity. You'll get your tag, you'll get your special bold pink name, and you'll either, if you want to be in the raffle or you want to be in the tournament or you want to do both, do that. We also have at the bottom in our entertainment section, we have our donate and tell a story. I'm not going to say you absolutely positively have to donate. We would really love it because we're trying to meet at least $1,000 goal. So go down there and make a donation. Come back and tell us the story of how cancer's affected your life. We actually started out with my wife's story and how it's affected her life with the death of her grandmother and her grandfather, her papa and mama. So get on there, share your stories. Tell us how cancer's touched your life so people can get on there and see anybody can be affected by this disease. You don't have to get it yourself, but the people around you, the people you love, in some way, shape, or form or another, there's probably a 95% chance that cancer is going to touch your life. So help us, help the American Cancer Society. Keep doing research to find a cure for this disease. Last little plugs, other than the breast cancer awareness. Come on, guys, help us get the word out. We really want this to be big. You notice our skin's pink and black. We're showing our support early, but it's going to stay that way until November 1st. Then we'll go back to our other default skins, but for all of October and the rest of September, the board's going to be pink and black in memorandum of breast cancer awareness. Last few things to cover. Trading mat contest ends September 30th. Whoever has the most trades in by then wins that. We still have our race to 8,000 for the Exodia mat. Get your friends in there, refer them over, make sure you post in there saying, hey, I sent this person. I'll add them to your list right now. Nomad's in the lead for it. Eddie.
Shush you, I'm trying.
Right now, Nomad is in the lead for that. And when you are sending people to register, make sure they know. Send Midnight Fox a PM. It makes the validation process easier. We try to make sure we limit the chance of spam bots getting in. So before you can actually go in and start posting on threads, you have to be validated, which I go in and do personally, working on some other guys to get them to go in and do it for the times I'm not on. So if you're sending people, make sure that they are sending a PM so that they can get validated faster and start posting, because we all know it's a forum people want to post. It's not going to happen till you're validated. And some actual people have been probably turned away because they did not read when registering. I mean, it's a big announcement and it's global. Mr. Nomad mentioned our theme deck of the month, which is All Wind. Right now we've got 2 entries. Get those in. It's a free tournament. You get to come in, All Wind monsters in your main deck and your side deck. Other than that, your extra deck can be it can be other things. Flash tournaments are still going on. Make sure you're checking those out. Be there on Tuesdays. It's usually between 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. I'm trying to get on a schedule here for some of you people. I want a lot of people. We have up to 8 spots, and it really makes it interesting when we get a lot of people. Just know that when you sign up, you are making a commitment. Read the rules fully, because you will be disqualified until the next prize tournament. Somebody's got to come in and take out Kai-O-U. Right now, he's like running away with it. So get in there and fight the good fight. Duel the good duel.
And Nomad has something to add.
Yeah, I got a couple things. The first one that you mentioned, about how this is a forum to post on. If any of you out there are a little, I guess, a little shy or whatever, honestly, you don't have to worry about it. If you have an idea, if you have a thought, a comment, make a thread or reply to one. Everyone on here is really welcoming. I know they were to me when I first came back. So it's only gonna improve for you and for the rest of us. Like if we have a thought, if we have an idea, just post it. That's the whole point of our forums. That's why we're here.
I'm not other board. This board that I created, it's run by the members. You guys come in and you make your suggestions. That's how things change. This is how we tailor to you. That's exactly what Nomad's telling you.
We don't bite. I nibble, but we don't bite.
Yeah,
Nomad,
don't let my avatar scare you.
Nomad, I'm sure he has a whip or something. Wait in the sidelines,
I broke my whip.
Nomad, I think of Tomcats and the librarian scene. So
podcasting.
I broke my whip. I broke my whip last month, and I have to get a new one. And Gonzaki will let me borrow his. He wants to keep his to himself.
So definitely, guys, yes. Post your suggestions in the suggestion box area. That is how the forums evolve. If it's a good idea, we roll with it. We'll give it a chance. But we can't make any changes if you're not coming in there and making suggestions. If you really want to see a part of the board flourish, right now there's some openings. Get in there, get active, show us what you can do. You never know. You might get a PM from the Fox saying, hey, want to come on and help in that section and be a mod? We really would prefer you to go to the application area, but there have been some outstanding members that I go to personally. So, I mean, we're not other boards. We're up and coming. We're not established. We are establishing ourselves. We're building a legacy. So this is your chance to get out there and get known for being yourself. Take that opportunity.
I got something else too before we head off here. If anyone out there has like super long hair or even long enough hair and you're thinking of getting it cut, a lot of hairdressing places and like barbershops and all that will donate your hair if you ask them to.
Lots of love.
Yeah, and like there's a few places in my area will donate it to. It's basically a foundation that makes wigs for kids. And that's what I do every couple years when I grow my hair out and it gets too long. And about a month from now, I'll probably do it again.
It's called Locks of Love. My wife's aunt actually does that. She grows her hair out for a while and then she donates it. We actually know a little girl who went to church with us. Her mother has a diary she keeps about the girl. It's called Caring Bridge and it's on Facebook. And this little girl's probably about 6 or 7 years old now. She's been fighting cancer her whole life, and she's a brave little girl. But that's kind of where she decided to give to Locks of Love. That's the donation you're thinking of.
And your hair only has to be, you only have to cut 8 to 10 inches to donate.
Oh, yeah.
So if somebody wants their hair to still stay below their shoulders and it's to their butt, they still can donate 8 to 10 inches if that's all they want to donate, but that's the minimum.
So, yeah, grow your hair out. Anything we can do to help the cause. Like I said, cancer touches everyone's life in one way or another.
Yeah, tell Fox to grow his hair out.
Anyways, as we've been ending this out, let's just hashtag Duel Against Cancer. Let's get it trending, and let's beat this disease.
Let's send this disease all the way to the Shadow Realm.
That's right. We're going to banish it to the Shadow Realm.